Good evening, folks. Welcome to the show. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, Linda. Welcome back, Kathy. We took a couple of weeks off. I was doing some stuff around the house that I had to commit to, and decided that I wanted to blow a gasket at the same time as well. So I took a week away from doing anything paranormal related. But glad to be back. Now we're going to we're going to have a bit of a routine now with guests every week. So we're gaining some kind of momentum that way. Apologize for not going on last week. But how you guys been anyway? Linda, how are you, sweetheart?
I'm okay. I had a little bit of a rough week, but it's good. I'm coming out the other side. It's really funny because pets, they know. They know when it's been rough. And my cat, who's now sitting on my lap, okay, she's not anymore because I told her to go. But she's been glued to me. Like, she's been glued to me. She knows. It's like, Mommy's not doing so good, so I'm going to sit on her lap and make it impossible for her to do anything else. But I'm good. How are you? Kathy, how are you?
I'm doing good. Actually, when I have a boring week, I am quite happy. I'm not going to lie. So that's kind of how it's been for me. When things are just steady and I'm bored, I'm doing good. Because I tell you, life has been kind of crazy the last 6 months or so. So I'm good. I'm good with bored. I'm good with like daily routine right now. I'm in a good place, actually. Right. As of right now, knock wood, we'll keep it there. But it was actually funny. So I have to tell you guys a really quick story and give a shout out just in case people are watching from today. So there was a group of men across the street from me, and they were making kind of a little bit of noise. And we were going to do the live show. And I was like, oh, no, either I'm going to have to mute myself on the microphone when I'm not talking, or I'm going to have to say something. And I was really nervous about approaching them, and they were really awesome. And so I also told them about the show. So if they happen to be watching, hello, guys. Thanks for watching us. But no, it was, I'm doing really good. Otherwise, doing really good. Thank you.
Perfect. I had we had a couple of weeks off of that. Paranormal Camp obviously fell through the cracks because we didn't get many reservations on that or anything like that. So just as well, really, because like that weekend I was kind of flat out as well, trying to do things around the house. But I've got a really kind of warm story to tell you on the paranormal front. A very, very, very good friend of mine who I met in Canada. Well, when I first arrived 15 years ago, he got in contact with me, and he was one of these. He's a non-believer, and like whenever I brought it up in the conversation, what I was doing with the paranormal and stuff like that, he laughed at it. He took the piss, jokes and stuff like that. Anyway, he when we first met, his mother passed away, and about 15 years ago, and he was always very close to his mum, even though his mum, he was from the UK as well. His mum was in the UK and he was out here and stuff like that. And over the years, he had the odd experience where he felt his mum was with him. He could smell scent and stuff like that, and that kind of thing. And July 1st, 15 years ago, which obviously was Canada Day for us, he texted me on the 1st, which is 2 days ago, and he said that he got a missed call, and that's when his mum died all those years ago. He got a missed call from England from his mum's old number.
What?
Yep.
Oh my God.
He got a missed call, and he took a script, and like honestly, Kathy, Linda, this guy is a total non-believer. Everything's black and white. There's no in between or anything like that. He's like 100% non-believer. Like, he's not skeptic. He's not nothing like that. Like, everything I said to him, I've done over the years, he laughed at. It's just a joke with him and stuff like that. But he sent me screenshots of his phone and stuff like that, and it was his mum's mobile number from back home, and it was just crazy. But it's crazy. I was going to post something on my Facebook page earlier on about it, but there's been a lot of people like that over the years have had that kind of experience as well.
Yeah.
Like Lynda, you must have heard of it before as well. It's not totally unusual about getting phone calls from the other side kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
That's just wild when you hear stuff. And so did it make him kind of a believer? Is he more open now?
He still doesn't believe. Like, he believes that even though he tried to phone the number back and the number's been disconnected because it was an old mobile number,
right?
He's still trying to
Rationalize it.
Yeah, he's still trying to collect it in his mind, and and he's trying to justify it in his own mind as well. And I've had clients like that before where things have happened and they call us in and we've managed to validate what's gone on, and they still don't believe. They're like, oh, well, this doesn't mean anything to me or anything like that. So in his own mind, he's dismissing what exactly happened. But at the same time, he's acknowledging it, if that makes sense. It doesn't, but it makes sense to me in that respect. And it's just a crazy parallels. And there was other things that happened over the last week and a half up until the day of his mum's passing. There was just like weird things like letters that his mum used to write to him, like, old school write letters to stuff to his son and stuff like that when he first emigrated. Like, these letters started coming up in weird places and stuff like that. Like, he had them in storage for years, and they just mysteriously come out of boxes, and he found them on his bedside table and stuff like that. And it was just up until that point, and then it was just like bang, like that. Absolutely insane.
Wow.
But
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy out there at the moment as well. But besides that, I've been ticking along quite nicely. It's actually, like you say, Kathy, it's sometimes nice to get that welcome break where you just take that step back. And fortunate now, with things the way they are, I can be as busy as I want, and I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not accountable to clients anymore or anything like that, which I'm faithful for, because, boy, with work and stuff like that, I just don't have the time anymore. So
totally get it.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
And Lynda, would you like to introduce our guest?
I would very much like to introduce our guest. I'll put on my oh, there you are. Okay.
Oh, there you are. Look.
I got new glasses.
Like today. Okay, cool.
Well, I'm really excited about our guest today because I've known her for quite a few years. She's a friend of mine. She's lived in the Kansas City area for quite a while. She used to be a tour guide at the Sallie House, and I'm sure you all know about the Sallie House. And now both she and her husband, Ron, are tour guides. I believe they volunteer at the McPike Mansion in Alton, Illinois. And she's really no stranger to the paranormal. She has her own show called the Paranormal Pride. I've been a guest on her show a few times. And she is just incredible. Really, the paranormal follows her everywhere. So I'm sure she's got some great stories, and she's a really awesome lady. And I just want everybody to meet Denise Pridemore. So welcome, Denise. Where are you?
Hi, here I am. So,
welcome to the show.
well, thank you for having me.
Welcome aboard, Denise. We start off with the original questions about obviously, was it the fact that you were a tour guide at the Bailey House that kind of got you into the paranormal? Sorry, not Bailey, the Sallie House. Bailey House.
So, no, I got involved in the paranormal because of a couple out-of-body experiences that I had when I was very young. One was when I was 4, but that one I remember parts of it, but the one when I was 10 was 47 years ago today. I witnessed my father being murdered across town. And
oh my God.
And he was murdered. He was stabbed to death by his own father. And so needless to say, that got me a little bit curious later on in life when I started, talking more about it to my mom. The day that we found out my dad died, I had gotten up that morning and I walked out into the kitchen, and I didn't really even notice that my dad's girlfriend was sitting at the table with my mother. Okay. I just walked out there and said, before my mom could say anything, I said, Dad's dead. He's gone. And proceeded to tell her everything that happened at my grandfather's house the night before. And everything that my dad said at the hospital before he died. And his girlfriend was able to confirm everything. And my mother said to me, she basically put her hands on my shoulders and said, you can't tell anybody any of this, because if you do, they're going to think you're nuts. And like I said, this was 47 years ago, 1975. What would people think, of a 10-year-old coming out and saying all this? Right. And so I remember going to my dad's funeral. I saw him walking around. I really, for years, didn't even believe my dad was dead. Even though I had seen it and everything, in my mind, he was alive because I saw him at the funeral. And my mom goes, of course you saw him at the funeral. He was there. He was laid out. And I was like, no, he was walking around. It took years for me to actually believe he wasn't going to come walking back in that door. Wow. So when I saw spirits just solid like me and you. The only thing is over the years, I've realized they don't have feet. I never see their feet. That's the only way. So if I'm talking to someone and I look down at their feet, it's because I'm looking to see if they're real.
Right.
As sad as it is, that is the reason that I got involved in the paranormal. I saw stuff my entire life. Back years ago, we had bought a house in Kansas City, Missouri, and I was pregnant with my first daughter. And I kept telling my husband, I said, there's a boy in our house, not a man, a boy in our house. And he goes, what's he say? I said, he says, Mom. He goes, what do you say? I say, what? And he goes away. I didn't think anything of it. About 11 years after we lived in that house, we were at a dealership buying a car. As random as it is. Yeah, we were buying a car. And the guy sees our address and says, you guys live in the suicide house. Well, I'm sitting there going, how would you know? He goes, I used to live in the neighborhood. And he told us who the person was that had committed suicide. I described him, and that's what he looked like. And Ron just looked at me like, really? I said, and I just looked at him and just said, told you. Wow. And how I knew that there was something else going on was we had holes in the wall. They were like pellet holes. And I would spackle them, paint over them, and suddenly they would sink back in. This went on for 11 years. Because, the house was beautiful harvest gold color inside. So needless to say, I had to take care of that right away. And so, I would spackle over this every year when I repainted, and the holes would come back. So the next time after we had talked to this guy, and we bought the car, talked to him, I just told the boy to go to the people who love you. Your mom's not here. You need to go to where she is. And the next time I spackled, it stayed. So we didn't have a problem anymore at that point. So found out that he had killed himself with a shotgun. Oh. So that's what the holes were from. So that's when, kind of how Ron and I found out that we were both into the paranormal at the same time.
Okay.
He didn't know. We had been married 12, let's see. We lived there 11 years. We'd been together 14 years at that point. We never talked about it. Oh. So that's when we both realized that we were both interested in it. And the first place we went was the Villisca Axe Murder House, I believe. Just drove by and stopped and visited and found out that we had a family connection to the Villisca Axe Murder House through his great uncle. And so the rest is kind of history as far as that goes. So we've been involved directly with the paranormal since around 2009, if not longer. I can only remember 2000 back to 2000. But yeah, so like I told you, Lynda, this was my anniversary of a major paranormal event in my life is today.
That's kind of cool, right? That you're here on this anniversary. That's like kismet, fate, or is it?
I don't know. Maybe it was something that made me want to have to talk about it today.
Yeah, I think so.
So did you guys start a team like fairly soon after discovering this, or how did that go?
It's pretty much me and Ron, and at one point it was our kids as well. But at this point, we're just independents. We investigate with whoever we want to, whenever we want to, and we don't have to worry about all that team stuff that people have to worry about. You know, I don't have to worry about. Do you agree? Do you agree? No, we just if somebody invites us, we go. So it makes it rather nice to be able to be independent.
What's your investigative style?
I don't know.
Like more equipment or
he's equipment.
Okay.
I'm just, used to be dowsing rods and things like that, but now since I seem to always know what the answer is before the rods do anything, I've just said the heck with those. I'll just tell you what I'm hearing.
Right.
And so most of it is just I go in blind. I never research a location the first time I go. Maybe the second time I go, I'll research it. Mm-hmm. Depending upon what information I get during that first investigation. So during that first investigation, if I get a whole bunch of names, guess what? I'm out the next day researching it to find out who these people are.
Right.
Why would this place be haunted? Give me more information. Give me the truth. Don't give me some legend. I don't want the legend. I want the truth. Give me some facts, and give me a wrong fact, and I'll tear that sucker apart. That's how I got involved with the Sallie House. The first time we went there were signs all over the walls saying a woman fell to her death on these stairs. I was like, okay, well, that should be easy enough to prove, So I went out and I looked for it. Guess what? There was no truth to it. The only woman that had died in the house I could find proof of, and she died in her bed from a long illness. It was nothing, major, and she was old. So she basically died from old age. And so I'm looking at all this stuff, and there's other things that are all over the walls in that house, and that were saying one thing or another, and I was like, no. So I went out and I spent 7 years researching that location, and I've got thousands of pages of data on everything that, somebody said something to me like, the family lived in the basement of this house while they were building it. I'm like, BS. And I was able to prove it, and how do you prove it? You prove it by researching everything. I said, I can prove that they lived somewhere else while the house was being built. How? I found a directory at the time that the house was being built that said where they lived. I mean, we've all seen Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
We know where business owners lived back in the day. They lived by their business. They didn't live down the street from their business unless they were rich. And these people were not rich. So, like I said, I was able to disprove most of the stuff. And there's been other places that we've gone where they've said things that make you go, no, I think I'll find out. And then when you find out, the homeowner or the location owner goes, how did you find that? Well, newspapers.com is a great resource because it'll tell you whose house caught on fire and when, and as you go back far enough that you can hear all the rumors about who was sleeping with who and all this other crap. So it's fun to research that kind of stuff to find out what really was going on at the time.
So let's talk about the Sallie House. Obviously, with the amount of research you've done, obviously 7 years is quite a considerable amount of research. Were you able at any point to put any pieces of the puzzle together when you were investigating there, like with any EVPs that correlated to the actual history that you found out rather than what was on display in there?
Well, the first thing they said was that there was a spirit in the house that hated women. Well, the first time I got scratched or hated men. not hated women, hated men, would attack men. Well, why would I get attacked? So a deep voice. Ron goes a deep voice. I had bruises on the insides of my arms and all this other stuff that I couldn't say, hey, this is happening to me. Why? So that was the first thing that was proven wrong. The lady that had lived in the house, her name was Agnes Finney True. She had lived there most of her life. And they kept saying, that a little girl had died here. Well, you know what? She wasn't a little girl. She was an old lady. So I was able to prove that one. There was another one where they said a doctor lived in the house. Well, yeah, 2 doctors lived in the house that I know of. And of those doctors, they said that this little girl died in the house around 1905, 1906. Well, Kansas started keeping death records in 1905. So I researched every death record of any children, anybody under the age of 20, even though back then an adult would have been like 14, to be honest. Right. But I researched all these records, found nothing of a child that had died from a botched appendectomy or pneumonia, depending upon which show you watched. There was nobody who had lived in this house had died from that. And the doctor they said lived there actually lived in the house next door. So, and I was able to prove that with his wife, because one show said that he had had an affair with his maid and that they had a love child and that she died from pneumonia. Okay. He was married and he lived in the house next door with his mother and his wife. And they had a son together who became a doctor who lived in the house later on in the 1940s. So it's like, okay, there's way too many holes in this story. And then there was some other things that they said that the doctor was a bad doctor. Well, if he was a bad doctor, how in the world did this guy get elected mayor of the town by all the women in the town who he had, been their doctors for when they had babies? Because this town in Kansas, you could vote in local elections long before you could vote in presidential elections. So, and this was in 1913. So if he had killed a child, think about this. If he had killed a child, your child, and he was running for office, wouldn't you be out there telling people he's a horrible doctor, he's a horrible guy, blah, 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 and this was during election season. So I really got to get a lot of that out. and he also lived across the street from the governor of the state. So I was able to bring in some of this stuff. And I told people, I said, you can believe what you want, but here's what I know for a fact. And they were like, so was there ever a Sallie? And I go, the only Sallie we can find was a 32-year-old woman who might have been his patient, who might have been, there's too many mites. And she died in a home that was either 2 blocks from his house or 7 blocks from his house, because she had 2 obituaries. Now, how many people do you know have 2 obituaries with 2 different addresses?
Oh my God.
So a little bit flaky there. So needless to say, I was able to bring in a lot of, I was able to punch holes in a lot of the stories that they had there. And it became a mission. I mean, I swear the first time we went up there and I saw all this wrong stuff, the first thing I said was, okay, you've all seen a haunting. First thing I said was, this ain't that house that I saw in a haunting. It's a totally different house. And like, I didn't know at that time that they used whatever house they could get into. And I noticed later on when they were driving by, they drove by the Sallie House and they did a cameo of it, and that was it and stuff. So I also saw it on some other shows, and it's like, they're not using the right house. I mean, I had to explain this to people, this house isn't the same inside as it was in there. And it's like, it's because this house is too small for them to have a camera crew in here like they did on sightings. I said they had the street pretty much blocked off when sightings was there because it's such a small home. It might be 1,200 square feet, three bedrooms, and 2 of the bedrooms are pretty small. And the downstairs isn't very big at all. So, it's like I said, there's a lot of different things that I had to explain to people when they would come in. And they got to the point where people were coming to hear me tell them facts as opposed to hearing the stories that the city was saying was the story. Well, overall, we found out that the story that they utilized some of the stuff that the Pickmans had told them, the people who lived in the house that made it famous. They utilized some of that, but they basically made up the part about where a doctor lived in the house and she died from a botched appendectomy, and that the doctor was a bad doctor. You know, they made it look like he was a drunkard, is what they did in the videos. And I swear that there was something in that house that was telling me, you need to make sure you tell the truth so that people find out the facts about this. And
what kind of paranormal activity have you witnessed in there that correlates to the history?
That correlates to the history?
Yeah, that you unturned. Have you got names of specific people in there? Or?
Oh, yeah. One of the names that we got was when I would walk in the door, I would feel welcomed. I would see this woman. Her name was Agnes Finney True. And she would basically kind of walk me through the house. She would tell me, you know, stuff that happened during the week, or they would come and tell me at home before we were going up, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, this person is up here using a Ouija board doing dumb things. What can you do to stop it? You know, things like that. There's a longer story that goes with all this at the end of my time there. But at that time, the things that I was getting were benign. And then after a while, I started getting stuff that wasn't benign. I was getting scratched. I was getting pushed. I was having chairs thrown across the basement at me. I got shoved down the stairs. I had all kinds of stuff. I can't even tell you how many times I got scratched. One night I got scratched twice. Once walking out onto the deck on the back of the house, I was walking back through there, and all of a sudden I got scratched. And then later on that night I got scratched again. And it's like, why? You know, and this was after I appeared on Ghost Adventures. It wasn't before Ghost Adventures. All I was doing was getting bruised. Like, I had handprints on the inside of my arm. You know, you would see 4 fingers on this side and 1 on this side. We got to the point where my husband would inspect me before we left the house on days that we had to go up there to make sure that there was nothing there. And suddenly, you know, we'd get home, I'd be taking off my clothes, and he's going, what in the hell happened to you? And I'm like, don't know. He goes, did you feel anything? No. But it felt to me like something was holding me there to tell this story. And there were cats there. There were ghost cats there as well. You could see people's skirts. They'll be standing there listening to you talk, and you would see their skirt move from the cat's tail, rubbing up against them. And I know Lynda knows exactly what I'm talking about. Their tail would just move their dress, and that would be it. We had people who would say that they felt dogs sitting on their laps. And there is facts behind the cats that I know of. In fact, Tony Pickman writes about it, Deb Pickman writes about it in her book from Tony's experience there, that they had 2 cats die. Well, one cat died in the dryer. The story goes is Tony worked nights. He came home and he went to bed. Deb left the house, and after she left the house, the dryer started, and you could hear bum 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 bum.
Oh,
and so God. Tony, when he gets up later on, he asked Deb, why did you start the dryer this morning? Did you leave your tennis shoes in there? And she said no. And they went and they pulled all the stuff out. And that's when they found what had happened. Nobody was there. You know, Tony was sleeping. And so later on, when the house got the better of Tony, he actually says in the book, in one of the last chapters, that he killed a cat because the house was telling him to kill Deb.
Oh my God.
So and then after the Pickmans lived there, a woman lived there that was involved in the occult. And she was doing sacrifices in the basement. And that is factual because the owner actually evicted her, and he used his reasoning as filth. He did not want to get into it. He still owns the house. It's still is no longer a rental other than nightly, because he just got tired of trying to get people in there, get it all cleaned up, and lo and behold, they leave in the middle of the night. And there's been some paranormal teams that have done that too, that have been there and then left scared to death. Never happened to us. I mean, we actually slept in the nursery. Me and Ron slept in the nursery bed. It was a twin bed. It wasn't a cradle or anything.
I'm gonna say
we have people that say
paranormal itself.
Yeah. Well, there's other things that are weird there in that house. Like there's high EMF in the nursery, but if you have the light off in the kitchen, which is a fluorescent light, no EMF. So that could be creating some issues for people when they're there. But the thing is back in 2017, the house was cleared. There was a crew was there. Richard Grund and Joe Sertone, they came in and they filmed a film there called The Deep Darkness. And I was their liaison between them and the city of Atchison, Kansas. And I was in there with them during the total eclipse that we had back in August of 2017. And Ron was outside with part of the film crew. I was inside with the rest of the film crew. And the house outside, he said all you heard was crickets. He goes, it was very peaceful, because it went to night, at 3:00 in the afternoon, it went to night. And in the house, all I could hear was screaming, not from Joe and Richard and Richard's sons. I couldn't hear that. I heard spirits screaming, and I was pushed down the stairs. And after that, I took some pictures. I don't even know what happened to the pictures. Okay. I don't know. I took some pictures and some other things, but again, it wasn't my place to really be telling people what I saw at that time. It was up to the film to tell them what they were seeing. I was just able to be there. I was excited just to be there with them, and so I come outside and I tell Ron what happened, and my heart's racing and all that, because the stairs there are small. It's not that the stairs are really small. It's just there's carpet on them. So instead of being as big as your foot, you kind of had to go down sideways because your feet don't fit. And luckily my feet are small, but I still went down with my feet going sideways. So in this case, when I was shoved down the stairs, I went down 6 stairs and hit into a brick wall.
Ouch.
And so that was just very odd. So the next morning, okay, so we left after the eclipse. We got stuck in traffic, went home. We had thunderstorms, hail, all kinds of stuff because of the weird weather change, getting warm, cool, then hot again, and then all this. We had flooding. And around 5:00 in the morning, that next morning, my side of the room is bright as day. There's no sun. It's raining, but it's bright as day, and I see like 50 spirits. Okay. And I'm not kidding. And I recognized them all from the Sallie House, and they were chattering. And as soon as I looked at them, Agnes is there, and she says, "Thank you, goodbye." And poof, they were all gone.
Oh, wow.
That was the last time I saw them. We did the tours there 3 more times after that. Because, well, we were getting a pork chop. In fact, my last tour there was after I presented my daughter with pork chop. So, and you know what I'm talking about. And so, the next 3 times we went up there, I didn't get any visits prior to. I did not see any spirits up there at all, except people who came in the house with people, brought spirits with them. Because I have a theory, and I don't know if it's true, but from what I see, when somebody says, hey, I'm going to a haunted location, guess what? Your spirits want to tag along because they're going, hey, you're going to be talking to somebody. I want you to talk to me. I'm going to come out and talk. And that's always what seemed to happen. Every time somebody came to the Sallie House, their own spirits would speak up. Well, in this case, that's all I saw. We had people came to me and said, hey, is Sallie here? I'm like, she never was, but no. Is there any spirits here? And then I tell them about their great uncle who died a week before, or, whatever it is that I could tell them. But besides that, there was no paranormal activity at all. And so we were kind of glad that we had given our notice in, a few months before, that we were going to be not doing tours anymore, because it felt like we were ripping people off, even though we weren't doing it directly, So you can still tour the Sallie House. You can still book it overnight. And I hear that there are some hauntings there. It's just not the same hauntings that were there before.
Do you know what the cause of the negative energy was? Have you any idea about that whatsoever? Because it seemed to, on the research I've done, obviously I haven't done as much research as what you have, but there's been reports of negative energy for as far back as you can find on the on Google search or anything like that.
The first time that there was ever any activity that was reported was 1993. And that was right after the Pickmans moved in. There are people who said they had activity, but they didn't say it until after the Pickmans reported it. So how factual can that be? Because some people are bandwagon people. We know that. So that's one of the things that I don't know for sure. But the lady who lived in the house after it was purchased from Mrs. Anderson, she purchased the home from the estate of the Finney family. She said that she never had any paranormal activity in that house at all. She went to the nursing home still saying that, and she turned it into she's the one who turned it into the first rental house. And there were people who had lived there for years until 1994. So after July 1994, that's when the records go very sporadic on who had, I can find phone records. I work for a telephone company, by the way. I can find phone records, and I could also find rental records and things like that of who had electrical service, whatever, in that house. And they go 2 months, 4 months, 3 months, a week, things like that. And so after 1994 is when it gets sporadic, except for the one woman that I said was evicted for filth. She happened to be there for 2 years. She was the only other one. So, and I think that she hunted down that house to get it. But why did it start having paranormal activity? And I'm going to leave this for everybody to think about. Deb Pickman, if you watch every interview, she says, I wanted to experience paranormal activity.
There you go.
I do not know what she did. There are theories out there, but I've met Deb Pickman, so I'm not gonna go into what all those theories are, but there are a lot. Pork chop.
I'm glad you identified that.
That's pork chop. My goodness.
Yes, this is Ruby.
Oh my gosh.
That's the lady that made you pork chop.
I did. I made a stuffed animal. Listen, Denise, you had you had an adventure with Ghost Adventures. I mean, you were there when they did their thing.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? I mean, there's so many people out there that still watch it. There's so many people out there that talk about Ghost Adventures. What was your, I guess, impression of how they conducted themselves, etc.?
Well, when we were with them, can you go over there by Grandpa, please? Thank you. My impression was we went out to the graveyard with them first. So in the very beginning, there is a scene where Zach is walking through the graveyard with Aaron and that some of the townspeople of Atchison. My husband and my daughter are in that. I'm there I'm not in any of the shots there because they didn't want me in there. But we had ridden out on the bus with them for Larry to say his piece. And Elizabeth Lane, she's also in there. She also speaks up. And they were, let's go with they were cracking jokes, not the Ghost Adventures crew, but the townspeople were cracking jokes and getting told to not do that. I was hiding behind gravestones so that I didn't get caught on the drone footage either. So, but yeah, Ron said it took him. What Larry did his part where he talks about the Sallie House. He did that in one take, and he did excellent. And of course, I still make fun of it, Sallie's house. But yeah, he did a great job. And but they took too much time, and so we all took the bus out there. Well, me, Larry, and one of the what's her name? Angie. Angie is was the tour director at the time. She was the tourism director. We get on the bus and we have to go back. Well, Angie gives me the keys to her car because they got a bus tour getting ready to go out. We can't bring them back on the bus. We had to go get cars and go out to the graveyard, bring them back. And in the meantime, I had to get ready to go to the Sallie House to interview. But I was driving a car that I didn't know whose car it was at the time. You know, I was just driving it. And they called me. Are you coming? I said, you guys took too long at the graveyard. And I said, my family's out there and I'm trying to bring them home. So we get back. I run into the chamber, change my clothes because I didn't want to be sweaty, you know, because it's September. It's hot here. And so I get changed, brush my hair, you know, make sure I don't have stuff on my face. And we get over there and they're miking me up. And they didn't block the street off. So we got to hear them. Zach actually stopped the interview with me outside on the porch to yell at somebody for not getting the street blocked off because it's a main street in Atchison. And of course, college is in, and there's a college at the end of the street. So everybody's driving by. They tell me, don't tell anybody what we're doing here. Okay. So we don't. I didn't tell anybody I was coming to town. So when people saw me, they knew something was going up because of the fact that Ghost Adventures was in town. So they knew why I was there because I only came in on the weekends. So there's some guys walk up to Ron, who's sitting on the wall of the McPike Mansion, and they go, that looks like the guy from Ghost Adventures. And Ron goes, no, it just looks like him. You know, so we look like total idiots, you know, to everybody, but they had told us not to tell anybody. So I took it for what it was worth. I didn't say a word. And so I get up on the porch, and while we're on the porch and they're adjusting their cameras and stuff, all the lights in the house go off and come back on. They were not filming, but Ron saw it and he went to them and said, did you guys catch that? Are you filming already? Because all the lights just went off and then came back on in the house. And Billy and Jay, well, Jay had a camera, so he was with us. Billy was out on the back porch. And this was when we first found out that Nick was no longer there. So this is even before the season starts. Nobody knows Nick's not there unless they've been, interviewed or whatever. And so we get in the house and they've asked me some questions and I answer them the best I could. I give them a tour and we're getting ready to go down in the basement. And I'm waiting for them to say something. And all of a sudden, I look over at him and I go, yeah, I said, this isn't a good place to be provoking. And I said, but I'm glad you guys don't do that anymore. And Aaron just cracked up laughing. And I'm like, oh, that's what I thought. You just not provoking on TV where we can see you. And Zach gave him the nastiest look, like, shut up. So I take them downstairs in the basement, and the stuff that I say was all me. It was not them telling me, hey, say this. I just said it. And because I told them what I was hearing, that they were going to get the investigation that they asked for. I also told them that somebody was going to get scratched. And Jay did. So we go upstairs, and I take them upstairs in the bedroom, and they all got sick at the top of the stairs.
Oh, wow.
Almost to the point of passing out. Well, there's high EMF there at the top of the stairs. There's unshielded wire cable in the walls, but I didn't know that then. And so needless to say, they all got nauseous and we had to stop filming. So I teased people for a while. I said, I was in there with all 4 of them, and I was upstairs in the bedroom with them all. So I teased about that. But the most important thing is that I got to do that. I thought it was fun. Zach is the one who wanted to do selfies afterwards with me and my daughter. I could care less. I was like, whatever, But my favorite part was the talking on the phone with Jeff Belanger. I loved talking with him. He's got the job I want. Because he gets to talk to these people about all their paranormal experiences, and he gets to do all this stuff and make money on being a paranormal investigator, folklorist, and things like that. I just love talking to him. So if I got nothing else out of it, in fact, I told Ron, I said, found out that the Pickmans went in there. I said, I think that they're going to cut the part where I gave them a tour. And I was fine with it because this is what I just wanted to see how it was done. I didn't care if I ever made it on TV. The only thing I regret is putting my last name on there.
Oh.
Because I get some weird pictures in Facebook. I have probably 7,000 people blocked at this point.
Oh my
God.
God.
I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating at all. And so every time it airs, I get something. It's like, okay. So yes, I tease a lot of people about it. And I'm not going to get into how I tease them because that might be misconstrued, and this won't be a PG show anymore. So, but again, it was a good experience. And for people who say Zach is a douche, well, you know what? His name goes on there and he just wants it right. So you can think what you want, but he's a type A personality and that's how they behave.
Yeah.
And it's his money.
He's a character, and he's a TV character, and that's
So people need to remember.
It's the same as all the TV ghost hunting shows. It's entertainment. That's all it is.
That's right. It's what I call it. I call it Pertainment, as
exactly. And if they were to actually film an actual paranormal investigation, yourself, Denise, it would be a lot more long-winded, and it certainly be a hell of a lot more boring than what they perceive on TV as well. And people can't really see through that. They see that, oh, it's a real, it's real what's on TV. It's not, it can't be real. Like there's just no way. You can't have like 17 seasons of one ghost hunting show where every single investigation they go on, they hit gold.
Yeah, well, luckily they had a few that they didn't. Thank God they got that in there. Same as Ghost Hunters has a couple that they found the people were faking it. A bar in California for ghost hunters. And there's some places that I don't think that Ghost Adventures had the activity, and they kind of say it, we didn't have it. And I'm not going to call out those locations, but people know who they are or what locations they were. And, I don't know how their new show's going because I'm not doing a pay-per-view or paid streaming.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of us out there that won't. I'm paying for it through Dish Network. I should be getting it with my Dish Network subscription. If I'm not, then I'm not paying extra. So, well.
So what? Obviously, us in Canada, a lot of people within where I live, BC, haven't even left their province. Certainly looking for like haunted places and stuff like that. There's a lot of documented active places in Kansas. I was just trying to think that there's one. Is it the Holly Halston House or something? It's oh God.
I can tell you about the McIntyre Villa.
No, Holly Hutchinson. Was it the Holly Hutchinson House? Is it the Holly Hutchinson House in Kansas? Or am I totally wrong? I might have missed the bus on that.
I don't know.
There was something. There was something on one of. It was actually a YouTube show where they did something in Kansas, and it was the Hutchinson house in Kansas.
I'd have to look it up. I mean, there could be the Holly House in Hutchinson, Kansas.
Yeah, there you go. That could be it.
I've never been there. In fact, this is the first I'm hearing of it. We go through Hutch on our way to Vegas, so I'll have to check that out. But yeah, I check out. We've been up to the McIntyre Villa. We just went up there for the second time. In fact, the only time I was ever in there before was when we were filming The Deep Darkness. That was one of the homes that I got Joe and Richard into to film in, because the history there went back to the founding of the town and it was haunted. So, I wanted to make sure that we got them into some really interesting places. And now that house is, it used to not be one of the houses you could get into to investigate, but now it is with the new owner, Stephanie O'Reilly. She's got it opened up for people to get into. But when I took Richard and Joe there for the filming, it was still owned by the fourth family that ever owned it, the Garrity's. Or some people call them Girardis, but they told me their name was Garrity, so I go with that. But that's one of the places that we've been. We've been down to. We also have the home of the Bloody Benders. There were serial killers back in the wagon train days. So not long after the state was founded, they were killing people and they were coming through, feeding them dinner, and then robbing them and killing them. And that's just down the road from here. We've got all kinds of battlefield sites not too far away. Not to mention we got Missouri. I mean, for us, Missouri's 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes from our front door. But we've been to, I can't even tell you how many places we've been. Probably it's well over 500 at this point.
Wow.
And then, like Lynda said, we're also volunteers at the McPike Mansion in Alton, Illinois. So we drive 325 miles to volunteer there.
What happens at the McPike Mansion?
It's a family haunting. So it's nothing dark. It's nothing like Ghost Adventure said. They said there was a demon there. There's not. It's very active with two families that really love the house. The McPike family and the Lashkey family. And it was also turned into a boarding house at one time. Right now, the Ludkey family is in the process of turning it back into a mansion as opposed to a boarding house like it was. It's condemned on the inside. They finally got the outside all done to where they can start working on the inside to get that all taken care of so that they can actually make it into a bed and breakfast at some point. I hope they get it in their lifetime. I just hope that their 50th wedding anniversary was just this past year, and that was when they were hoping to have the downstairs done, and they didn't make that. But the amount of work that they've done, I mean, they bought it for $40,000, and they've probably got $400,000 into it now between the roof, the windows, and the doors, and fixing the sunroom. So if you guys look up McPikeMansion.com, there's a bunch of pictures out there that show what it looked like back when they bought it to what it looks like now. Major difference. How from the time that we went there, started going there, it's changed a lot. And back to when we were talking about how we got involved, there were 3 places that I wanted to check out: the McPike Mansion, the Blisk Axe Murder House, and the Sallie House. And that was just my goal. It was to get those. And the only reason McPike Mansion came up was because Ron was from St. Louis. And it's just across the river. Well, it's across 2 rivers, across the Missouri and the Mississippi to get there. But it was just across the river. So I just wanted to make sure that we got to go. And he never knew where it was. And I happened to find it one day when we were I was looking at some maps and stuff. I said, try this road. And we went down this road and we found it. And we've been volunteering there ever since that day. So, and then a fun fact, I don't know if it's fun to everybody, but the Sallie House and the Blisk Axe Murder House have the same address.
Oh.
Different towns, but the same address.
That's bizarre.
Weird.
That is weird, isn't it?
Yep.
So we have a question. Sorry, I have a friend.
I see that. So Fort Leavenworth is one of those towns that denies that they're haunted, even though they have an underground, which is unusual for this part of the world, especially since it's high up on the bluffs on the Missouri River. And anybody who knows about Leavenworth, it was built back in 1839, before Kansas was a state. It was the prison on the edge of civilization. And so if the river didn't kill you if you escaped, the natives would. And it's just about 20 miles south of Atchison, Kansas, where the Sallie House was. So we would go through there a lot. It's also the town with 9, it's either 6 or 9 prisons. For some reason, 9 sticks in my head.
Oh my God.
So you got 9 prisons. What do you think you're going to have? I mean, let's be honest. They're putting people to death at Leavenworth, and Lansing. So Leavenworth and Lansing are together, and that's how the prisons are kind of split up. And so it's an unusual place, to be honest. And there was a lot of historians that lived there that, you go down the one of these roads right on the river, and all the houses are haunted. Carrie Nation used to live there, and people, if you're into Prohibition, Carrie Nation. She was the little woman with an axe that went around terrorizing all the saloons. She lived on this road. My friend lives in one of these houses that's on this road, and every one of them, I show up there and they're all coming out their houses to tell me about their paranormal activity. There was, they find bullets in their yard. When there's a little bit of erosion, bullets are found. Pellets, or not pellets, the little balls that they used in their guns back in the day, those show up randomly. So it's really unusual. But Leavenworth has got a huge haunted history there, especially with that kind of stuff going on. Quantrill's Raiders came through there, and then add in, you also had, what was that guy's name? Harvey. There's a Harvey house there that has a lot of paranormal activity. And Harvey houses are all across the country, and every one of them, people say, have paranormal activity. So It's an unusual place.
Wow, incredible. Thank you so much, Denise. Before we go, would you like to plug your websites, your social media pages as well?
Sure. You can find me on the Paranormal Pride every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central, and you can find the Paranormal Pride on the Paranormal Pride YouTube, the Paranormal Pride Facebook page, on the Bill of Rights Facebook page. And, if you need to know more, ask me. I'll tell you. I'm great at telling people where to go. And you can also find me on Tuesday nights on the Bill of Rights Network from 5 to 7 p.m. Central every Tuesday. And just be aware that one sometimes gets political. So if you don't mind a little bit of politics, you're probably going to be fine. But we have a great time. And if you guys have any ideas for shows for me, send them to me. I'm more than willing to listen. And you can find Denise Pridemore on Facebook. I use that for most of my correspondence.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you for coming on the show. That was fantastic. So
it was a pleasure to meet you, Denise.
Awesome.
I'm sorry you guys didn't get any words in.
No, it was fantastic. Really, really nice. You carried it all the way through, and it just it's nice to have people that can just carry us through the interview, which is fantastic. If you're listening, if you're watching or actually listening as well, please, if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the notifications channel, and we'll be back with next week. Oh, before I go, a little plug for myself. I just 2 weeks ago released my new book, which is The Dying Light, an investigation into the near-death experiences, where I share one of my own experiences, and we talk to subject experts about that kind of thing as well. My third book, that's available on Amazon along with my other 2 books as well. There is the 4th one, which is just started, and that's going to be out for Christmas as well. Kind of similar taste to yours, Denise. We're doing we're doing our 4th book on Bigfoot. So, on the same note of that. But thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back next week.